Female patients expected to care for husbands. Been working in healthcare since 2017, and the last 2.5 years have been as a nurse in and I take open heart surgery patients. Fresh out of OR. This is definitely pervasive in other specialties, but I've noticed the vast majority of women choose or request to go to a cardiac rehab facility and cite to staff they just don't want to be forced to care for their husbands. It absolutely baffles me that a woman can have her chest split open, ribs broken and mended together, and still be expected to care for someone at home directly after recharge. Overheard recently. Non-cardiac ward. 70-man visitor to wife in hospital bed. Plaintive tone in his voice. "Darl, when are you coming home? There's nothing to eat." She'd only been in hospital for 2 days. With a bad UTI. I work in home health doing the follow-up on these women. It's as bad as you think it is. Many times. Children try to come into the home to help, and well, it's interesting watching adult children realize how much a spoiled brat their dad is. With that said, I've met some men who are wonderful partners. But that is so rare that it usually catches the attention of the whole staff and is discussed. Because it's so damn unusual. In the nursing sub there are women who have had a near-death birth. And who bands ask staff when can she do housework or have sex again. Have totally had this happen. Especially women over a certain age that were basically brainwashed into thinking their only role in life was to do for others. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give them a little more time to heal in the hospital, because the minute they get home, guaranteed no one is taking care of them. I mean, these men are pissy and grumpy and sulking. They have to wait 6 weeks to have sex with their wives. After she has a baby, they definitely don't care about her having her chest cut open. It absolutely baffles me that a woman can have her chest split open, ribs broken and mended together, and still be expected to care for someone at home directly after recharge. This is why the lower your standards or you'll die alone with a bunch of cats narrative is so ridiculous. Because in reality, the alternative to dying alone with a bunch of cats is dying alone after you've worked yourself to near death for a partner who doesn't care the littlest bit about you and does nothing for you. There's a whole section on this in Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. It is significantly easier for men to get their wives into elder care facilities here than women to get their husbands into care. The assumption is that women will be able to care for their husbands longer, regardless of the illness. Men are not expected to nurse their wives through long-term care. 2 of my friends are having knee replacements and got the nurse navigator to strongly recommend inpatient rehab because of the care required. More boy math lol. She cares for you for 20 years and births your children. You learned nothing and can't care for her for 2 weeks. I wish this were an option for moms recovering from a cesarean. We face the same fate. Can barely walk but the laundry needs doing and the man with the master's degree is too good to do it. My dad and brother are decent caregivers and jump in when there's a need. Both can and have lived completely on their own and kept up a clean house with meals. They're both in long-term marriage partnership now and they still cook and do all kinds of chores and projects. I was shocked to find them to be a rarity. I also work in a hospital surgery. We've had experiences with husbands of female patients where the only questions they seem to be interested in is when can she get back to normal duties like cleaning? Will she be able to cook? Will she be able to use a vacuum? I still remember visiting my grandmother who was in the hospital dying of cancer. And she was trying to explain and apologize for putting my grandfather with dementia in a home as she was no longer there to care for him. I am still so very angry that she ever felt the need to apologize for that. My aunt was in the hospital for 3 weeks with congestive heart failure. She almost died. My cousin had to bring meals over to our uncle and show him how to heat a frozen dinner. This makes me wild. My wonderful father tenderly cared for my mother the last devastating year of her life with all the love, respect, care and dignity she deserved. Kept the house spotless, too, the way she liked it. She died holding his hand last November. I worked as a hospice CNA for a handful of years and was able to witness a handful of great husbands' sons. There is one couple I will never forget. The wife was my patient, and the husband kept her at home. They had been together since they were 10 years old, and she passed on his 90th birthday. He demanded to be a part of her care until the moment she died. They were a freaking wonderful family. This is so depressing. I broke my ankle last week and my husband has been the best, made every meal, cleaned every room, carried me to the and back. But this is so pervasive that I remember when I got my wisdom teeth out and I told them my boyfriend was picking me up and taking care of me. The nurse cautioned me against it because boyfriends can be unreliable. And women I know who straight after giving birth can't get their husbands to babysit. Equal partnership shouldn't feel like winning a lottery. After I got divorced, I broke my foot. I was so glad it happened after my ex was gone. I could navigate around the house in the boot cast and could still drive. I had one of the kids walk the dogs. I managed to hobble my way through the remaining bare minimum of things around the house so I could eat and have clean clothes. If my ex was still here, he would have been haranguing me the entire time to still do everything and do things for him. It would have been miserable and I would have had no help. When my mom messed up her knee and could barely walk, my dad handed her a box of crackers and went to work. There was a little more involved. He brought home takeout for dinner, but she was mostly left to fend for herself. My father is not a natural caretaker. A couple years later, my dad had surgery on his foot. My brother very thoughtfully got him a bell he could ring for service. My mom very kindly did not shove the bell where the sun doesn't shine. Instead, she handed him a box of crackers and told him good luck. My Phil was busy lining up my MIL's replacement while she was on her deathbed. Before my heart surgery, I cooked and froze a lot of food so we wouldn't starve to death while I was recuperating. My mom was hobbling around the house with a cane and then a rollator, trying to get meals and clean the house, when she had terminal cancer. Heaven forbid my boomer-aged dad do those things. Side note, he has the worst case of only child syndrome I'm sure there's ever been. She has since passed. And my dad often tries to put his emotional baggage and all-around bullshit on my sister and I when his girlfriend won't put up with it. Good on her. No wonder so many women from that generation stay single when they outlive their spouse. I had a C-section with some complications after a high-risk pregnancy and I wasn't supposed to go up and down stairs. My husband decided I was fine and canceled his week of PTO. He worked from home one day and left me alone in a house that required using 2 flights of stairs. He also yelled and called me lazy if I asked him to get me stuff for the baby from upstairs when he came home from work. My kid is 4 and we are getting divorced. I have seen this so often at work. Also, healthcare provider. One patient has had a stoma bag, poo bag essentially for the last 3 years, but he refused to touch it. Told everyone that nursing staff had to change it for him. Asked him who does it at home. Him, that's my wife's responsibility.